And of course, we welcome you back here on Morning Live. Such interesting conversations about the sale of alcohol products. And, you know, that question came up several times yesterday during the press briefing as well, Leanne. And it was said that even taverns, bars, they will be allowed to open, but people are not allowed to sit and drink there. So you will buy and go and consume it at home.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's what's been said. And also the issue of domestic workers being allowed to come back to work. That was another one that was raised yesterday. So, you know, you'll find a lot more people going back to places of work. So these are just some of the guidelines that are going to be happening from Monday.
You know, they spoke to that as well, saying that, of course, you want people to, you know, keep taking the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe. But domestic workers will be allowed to go back. And it makes perfect sense, given that if people are going back, and oftentimes the younger kids are left at home with the helpers. And therefore, you know, as the industry opens up, more and more people will be allowed to go back to work. But of course, people will just need to be able to prove that they are traveling for this, that, or the other reason.
All right, so Sakina, we've been promising South Africans some more of those figures and graphics that were released last night. Very good one. We'll move away from this one. I think we've shown this one quite a lot, but what we want to do is show you more of the age distribution now. And this, I think, is quite interesting if you haven't seen this already. So having a look at how, you know, the distribution of the amount of deaths. So we've recorded 577 deaths in South Africa. Here's the breakdown for you. You can see that the largest portion of the deaths come from the ages 60 to 69. Hence the huge warning. Please, anybody over 60 should take care and try not go back to work. Try not to get out as much as, you know, somebody that is younger. 50 to 59 is 144. That would be the second most vulnerable group. Then, of course, 70 to 79 is 113 people. 80 to 89, 55 people, 90 to 99, 11, and then we jump up to the 40 to 49s, that's 61, 30 to 39, 33, 20 to 29, 4 people have died. And then the little ones, the children, because that's where schools are going back and people very, very concerned. So 2 little babies have died. That's, well, one we know was a 2-day-old, but that already did have an underlying condition. So that unfortunately was a recorded death of COVID-19. 2 deaths from 0 to 9, and then between the ages of 10 and 19, 1 has lost their life. So that's that breakdown people have been asking for.
And then, of course, you know, just looking at further breakdowns of this particular information in terms of gender, females and males, and just giving further granular detail to the statistics you've just read out, Leanne, and also the statistical, it's very much the same picture, so don't worry too much about it in terms of seeing the percentages. It's just putting the percentages to the figures that Leanne has read out. For example, 0 to 4-year age band, you've had those 2 deaths that you spoke about, and of course that will constitute 0.9% of the total number of deaths that we've seen overall. So this is simply the breakdown that this gives you in terms of the overall picture of how the number of deaths is constituted, and also the breakdown of male and female overall.
That's a big one, and then I think the next slide is going to talk even more to that. That one's quite complicated. But here's your breakdown of the male and female. So, you know, it has been said globally that men seem to be more susceptible to it. So here's what it looks like in South Africa. So far, of the deaths, 308 have been males. That constitutes for 53.4% of the deaths. And females, 269 have been female, and that's 46.6% of the deaths.
And I think the one thing that's still outstanding, Leanne, and people have been asking for this, is of course to get a racial demographic as well. To get a breakdown of the race demographic, but we still don't have that. But perhaps it's still being worked on. Perhaps we'll still get it, because we've asked for this type of breakdown previously that wasn't necessarily provided. We've got it now, and now we are just awaiting a racial breakdown of the COVID-19 related deaths.
Yeah, it is a big one, and I do hope that racial breakdown does come through, because, you know, it's not something that the rest of the world are not reporting reporting on. It is done, and one would think that we'd be privy to that information. Yeah. And also some people asking for, those underlying conditions that we've been speaking to, and the evidence that, if you are a smoker, that you're more susceptible to, obviously, losing your life and the battle against coronavirus, and how many of those that have died were smokers. People want these numbers, and that's that scientific evidence that people are calling for. Anyway, we can keep talking. I'm going to stop the talking.
But I think there are some important touch points to be made there, Leanne. We talk about the comorbidities, the underlying conditions, and the susceptibility of people in the 60-plus age band.
Yes.
But we forget that today, you and I, people in our age band, are also struggling, with certain issues like hypertension, like diabetes, and that makes us, susceptible as well.
Absolutely.
So we shouldn't take anything for granted.
Yeah, and obesity, a big one too, because that's what a lot of people are saying is an underlying cause. Anyway, like I said earlier, we've got to stop talking because you've got to bring us the news. So here we go. This is it. Let's bring the news.